10 children, 8 unaccompanied, found working in a marijuana farm in California like slaves. Now, this is not happening in a third world country. This is Gavin Newsom's backyard. While he tweets about kids crying from tear gas, real children are being trafficked, exploited, and forced into cartel labor camps disguised as pot farms. ICE and CBP raided the Camarillo facility yesterday, and what they found should haunt every American. But instead of gratitude, federal agents were attacked, shots reportedly fired, pro-ICE citizens beaten by mobs, and Tom Homan confirms we're still missing over 300,000 children who crossed Biden's open border. Where are they? Working fields? Worse? This is the human cost of sanctuary state policies, children paying the price for political virtue signaling. Keep watching. What you're going to find out next is going to shock the hell out of you. And while children labor on cartel farms, our own kids face a different threat: indoctrination. And that's why patriots are turning to Patriot Be Best, where education meets action. Did you know American bee population directly impacts our food security? When bees disappear, crops fail. When crops fail, nations fail. Patriot Be Best created an educational digest teaching families about this critical issue. For just 17 cents a day, you will support bee restoration and this show. This veteran-owned business, it focuses on preserving both our bee population and our republic. So visit patriotbebest.com. Use code NEXTNEWS for 25% off. Join the hive, catch the buzz, and protect our future. You'll find a link below. And we thank them for the sponsorship of this program. All right. So what the hell is happening in California? Breaking news. The weed farm that was raided by ICE agents yesterday, what? Is a donor for Gavin Newsom. It's now officially under investigation for child labor violations. Here is the Fox News headline: Newsom's donor's cannabis farm under federal investigation for child labor violations. That's where Gavin Newsom's getting his donor money. Can't make this up. Here we have Stephen Miller, one of my favorite members of the Trump administration, 4 hours ago on Fox News, talking about the hundreds of thousands of children in California.
Which are heinous. Well, first of all, the president has been clear and consistent in saying that he's going to fight labor trafficking and child trafficking. And this marijuana plantation is a clear-cut example of labor trafficking and child trafficking, which are heinous crimes. Additionally, I don't know of anybody except the governor of California who would argue.
What? Are you really going to start spinning on me now? You're really going to start buffering?
And this marijuana plantation is a clear-cut example of labor trafficking and child trafficking, which are heinous crimes. Additionally, I don't know of anybody except the governor of California who would argue
Look at that.
That a marijuana plantation is an essential component of America's food supply chain. And everywhere you look in California, you see industrial child exploitation on a massive scale, an industrial scale. There are likely hundreds of thousands of children in California who are being exploited for their labor or sexually exploited as part of sex trafficking. This administration is liberating these children and helping reunify them with their parents back in their home country. What the Biden administration did with respect to child trafficking is one of the great crimes in human history. Over 500,000 children were illegally trafficked into the country under the previous administration. When we've gone and looked for these children, Martha, the addresses that the U.S. government provided, in other words, the records that the government kept under Joe Biden, are all fake. Nobody ever checked if the addresses were real. Nobody ever checked if the sponsors were real. Nobody ever checked if they were really even relatives or parents or relations or safe. We recently recovered a young illegal alien, for example, who had been raped repeatedly by the adult male that the Biden administration handed to her. She was under constant video surveillance and was coached exactly what to say if an officer ever knocked on her door so that she would never be rescued. We have example after example. We go to homes 13, 14, 15-year-old children who are raped on a daily basis because the Biden administration, because the Democrat Party chose to traffic them into this country. So we will be unrelenting in our effort to free these kids.
Yeah, this is a huge story, and the Biden administration tried to push them out of these holding facilities at the border and into the arms of people who were picking them up. There were some cases where one person picked up 150 children. So I doubt very much that was their uncle.
Were not all their children. Well, first of all,
okay, let's go into the raid now. Okay, here is the CBP commissioner Rodney Scott. Posted, here's some breaking news. 10 juveniles were found at this marijuana facility, all illegal aliens, 8 of them unaccompanied. It's now under investigation for child labor violations. This is Newsom's, California. Okay? But here's what's funny. Look at this. Gavin Newsom posting this 23 hours ago. Kids running from tear gas, crying on the phone because their mother was just taken from the feds. Trump calls me new scum, but he's the real scum.
Do not run! Do not run! Stay calm! They took your mom?
I mean, they're heartbreaking images. No question about that. But those images are the direct result of Joe Biden's policies. So try to, point the finger at Donald Trump and Tom Homan for enforcing the law is irresponsible. Here we have this. Matthew Smith writes, I am totally rooting for ICE. I want more ICE. Camarillo, California, marijuana farm being raided today by our heroes. Protesting ICE is anti-American and not patriotic whatsoever. The pot farmers who employ the illegals need to be held accountable.
Has completed their keeps going back and forth. Federal agents will move them down the street. Then the protesters start advancing back closer to the agents, and the agents have to redeploy gas over and over again. And this is going to continue until either the protesters leave or or ICE is down here and has completed their operation here at the farm. But
so here's the irony of what you're seeing right here. Here's the irony. I just showed you what Gavin Newsom posted. He's trying to pull at the heartstrings of Californians and people across the world. Footage from this raid. Raid of a marijuana farm. Just happens to be the donor to Gavin Newsom. Just think about that for a second. Gavin Newsom is trying to get all emotional with you, posting this footage. And yes, it hurts me to watch humans suffer like that. But actions have consequences. Policies have consequences. Gavin Newsom happily accepted money from the man who runs this marijuana farm, who employed these people, who then became the subject of an ICE raid. This is the America that we're in. That's California.
Many people that have been detained and have yet to be possibly loaded onto buses here at the property. So this could carry on for quite a while longer.
Rich, it's really interesting because these raids that we've seen in the last month and a half or so, there's typically the federal agents, ICE agents, then there are the protesters, then there are the people who are being detained. But typically some form of local law enforcement shows up to, like to your point, protect the firefighters or protect the paramedics or just keep the peace in general. Interesting that they haven't shown up for this one.
It is. We're also in a different county. We've seen these happen in different counties, different cities, whether it's, the sheriff's department that is the authority in the area, or it's local to the police department, like the LAPD. So different policies, but in general, across the board, the local authorities have said that they don't wish to be engaged in what is happening down here with the immigration enforcement. And I think that they are doing everything they can to, the Sheriff's Department here in Ventura County is doing what they can to not actively get involved in the situation down here. And
or maybe they're just appeasing the governor's demands. Don't get involved. Well, here is Tom Homan. People are welcome to protest, but they can't cross that line. Here he is talking about that very raid at the cannabis farm by Gavin Newsom's donor.
End up with a lawsuit. You know, people are welcome to protest. They have their First Amendment rights, grew up, but they can't cross that line. They can't impede us from doing our job. That's a felony. They certainly can't put hands on an agent. That's a felony. So what happened in California is just another example of protests becoming criminals. And they've been emboldened by even members of Congress who compare ICE to Nazis and racists and terrorists. I mean, the rhetoric is so high, and I said 2 months ago, it's going to end up with a loss of life. And we had one the other day in Texas. And it's not over. I mean, the rhetoric has to end. ICE agents are simply enforcing the law that members of Congress enacted, that they wrote, they created, and was signed by the president. If people want to complain about the job ICE is doing, then go complain to Congress, because we're enforcing the laws they enacted. We're doing our job.
We are doing our job. Now, apparently, an ABC LA affiliate says a protester fired some sort of gun at ICE during the raid, and this man was called a domestic terrorist for walking into an open Capitol on January 6th.
This happened this afternoon.
So ICE is currently raiding a marijuana farm in California, and listen to how the fake media describes someone who shot at ICE. This is crazy.
Take a look at this video right here. It appears a protester fired some kind of gun at federal agents. This happened this afternoon. It was a really chaotic scene at the time. A lot of smoke was being launched at the protesters. And again, it appears a protester fired back with that weapon. It looks like he fired at least a couple of times. We have not heard about any agents being hurt.
Dude, I walked into an open Capitol on January 6th and was smeared as a domestic terrorist, even though I was nonviolent, didn't hurt anybody, and literally walked through the doors of cops waving me in. And I was called a domestic terrorist along with many other people that just walked into the Capitol on January 6th. These people are literally calling this guy a protester still and saying that he shot some kind of gun. Man, you really do not hate the media enough. So ICE is currently raiding a marijuana farm in...
Yeah, that's the media for you, though. Love how they spin this stuff. Here we have more. This is from Homeland Security Department. Biden administration lost 300,000 unaccompanied children. Many of these innocent children trafficked and exploited. And let's go and listen in to this report.
300,000. Is there any update on finding those children? And in what cases have you been tracking these kids being forced to work underage and in violation of labor law?
Tiana, you're absolutely right. Under the Biden administration, it was about 300,000 unaccompanied children who were lost in the system. I think it's an untold story that needs to be shared widely. Undersecretary Noem and HHS, we are working diligently to find these children. So far, about 5,000 unaccompanied children have been found and reunited with a safe guardian or relative, but we're working hard to make sure that number is pumped up and we get these children to safety. It's so wrong what's happened, and it is our top priority, whether it be in LA, Chicago, New York, or otherwise, to make sure we are stopping any sort of exploitation of children.
Moving right along. Here we have Representative Salud Carbajal was rejected on Thursday when he tried to enter the marijuana field in Carpintera, California, after immigration officers conducted a raid of the grow site.
Entry when he tried. This here is new video from Camarillo, where another federal law enforcement operation was taking place at a glass house farm location. Congressman Salud Carbajal was denied entry when he tried to get past federal agents into the farm. In a statement, Carbajal called this completely unacceptable and said that he would be demanding answers from Homeland Security. A large crowd gathered at Foothill and Casitas Pass Road for about 2 hours. 10 people were reportedly.
A Fox reporter laughs as he describes ICE supporter who showed up yesterday at the California marijuana farm being accosted, water dumped at him, beaten by far-left foreign extremists.
And that supporter was not really met with a lot of other support. You see him basically being, have some water, look like dumped on him, and being taunted. More water thrown. People waving a Mexican flag in his face as they walk through America. And
they wanted to get him out of here.
Is the guy punched?
It looked like it.
Wow.
It got nasty. It got nasty. We followed it for a while because we wanted to keep an eye on him. He was by himself.
Wow.
And he, I didn't see the beginning of it, but I did see when people started talking back to him, and he started trying to make it to his car, and as you can see, it got quite nasty. At one point, people were going after him. Now, I have to say that's the only person like that we have seen here, and he did make it to his car. Near the end, people were saying, let him go, let him go. We don't want to hurt somebody. We don't want to be seen like this. So even within the protesters, there's that dissent of, don't get violent, don't overdo it. But definitely, when it is hot like it is today, when people are tired, things are going to happen. But the man did get...
Unbelievable. That's where we're at. Here is more on that. I'm home and going off on the foreign child labor.
These are... But Tom, it strikes me unbelievable that the Democrats are not on board. When you look at this raid, there were 10 juveniles that were illegally brought across the border. You and I covered this under the Biden administration. I was down in Texas. We encountered 8, 10-year-old, 12-year-olds coming across with just a name and an address and a phone number on their necks. The cartel ruthlessly sending them across. And yet now we know that 10 of them, 8 of which were unaccompanied minors working illegally in a marijuana farm. And your agents go in and rescue them essentially. And yet there is violent resistance to that. Does that upset you?
It certainly upsets me, and like I said, the work men and women of ICE are doing is incredible. Look, we're looking for over 300,000 missing children. We've already found 10,000. Have you heard that anywhere? No, the media is simply not covering it. And look, this should be a nonpartisan issue. Arresting public safety threats and national security threats, everybody be all the same page on that. Rescuing children, it should be a nonpartisan issue. Everybody should be in lockstep on that, but they're not. The media's lying. The Democrats they don't want President Trump to be successful. I got news for them. We are being successful. Every illegal alien public safety threat we arrest makes this country safer. Every national security threat we take off the street and deport makes us safer. And we're rescuing thousands of children. The lives saved every day by ICE, the lives saved every day by Border Patrol, are in the hundreds. So it's the only thing I can think of, Griff, if they hate President Trump more than they love their community. They hate President Trump more than they want, safe communities. And there's just no other excuse why this is not, why this has become a partisan issue to take public safety threats off the street.
And here is some more footage from that. Look at this. Look at what they're doing. They are just they're throwing rocks at these cars. After yesterday's ICE raid on a cartel-run illegal marijuana farm in California, underage kids were found working slave-like conditions, disturbing patterns emerging. Look at these. Look at what they're doing to these guys. Gavin Newsom''s donor. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. This is modern slavery on American soil. While Democrats scream about historical injustices, they're enabling actual child trafficking through their sanctuary policies. Those 10 kids found yesterday, they're the lucky ones. Tom Homan says 300,000 are still missing, vanished into a black market of exploitation that Gavin Newsom's policies created and protect. When ICE tries to rescue children from cartel slavery, they're attacked by mobs, shot at by protesters, and demonized by the media. When a Mexican-born congressman tries to interfere with a federal raid on a crime scene, he's treated like a hero. This is not immigration. It's organized crime using children as currency. And every sanctuary city mayor, every open border politician has blood on their hands. They know where these kids end up. They just don't care. So here's the question. Should harboring unaccompanied minors for labor be prosecuted as human trafficking? Yes or no? You can support truth grabbing some merch at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.